Hey there, friends. Welcome back to Filomania. Today, we've got a new little box on the table. And yes, it's already open. That's because inside this same shipment came 2 knives from a US store called atlanticknife.com. Take note of that name. They've got a really interesting stock of blades, and I only just discovered them recently. I'd already done the unboxing of the first knife that came in this box, the Concept ODD21, which you can check out in another video right here on the channel. And now, as you can see, it's time to take a look at the second one, a Vosteed made in China. Let's see what we've got here. First off, credit where it's due. Shout out again to atlantickknife.com. Go check out their page if you haven't. They're based in the US, and they really carry some solid brands. Inside the box, they even included a small, old-school calendar. Very nostalgic. I love little touches like that. It shows care, you know? And here we've got what seem to be the invoices for both knives. Yep, here's the one for the Concept, and this one right here for the Vosteed 299. You can clearly see it printed. Atlantic Knife Company, Vosteed 299, top liner lock. Now that is interesting. This locking system is something we haven't seen yet here on the channel. The knife features micarta inlays combined with brass accents, giving it a really classic look. Brass, by the way, means bronze, and in this case, it's a folding knife made with a V35VN steel blade, a high-quality steel known for its edge retention and corrosion resistance. All right then, let's check out this little guy. It's still factory sealed, so let's cut through this carefully. I never like damaging the boxes. I always keep them because, as any true knife collector knows, the original packaging really matters. If one day you decide to sell a knife and it's still got the box, papers, and all the accessories, the resale value can easily jump. If you've ever seen Pawn Stars on the History Channel, you know exactly what I mean. Collectors pay more when the presentation is complete. All right, let's open it up. Here's a little silica gel packet, anti-moisture stuff. Poison for trolls, as I like to call it. And we've got a manual, a sticker that's definitely going to my son, and a Vosteed card with a 30-day money-back guarantee and a contact email for customer support. Everything neatly presented, as we've come to expect from Vosteed. Inside the box, we also get a small manual, the kind that almost every Chinese manufacturer includes. You'll find it in German, French, and even Spanish, so you can actually read through it if you'd like. Nothing unusual there, it just covers basic maintenance and care instructions. And of course, the classic microfiber cloth, always appreciated for keeping your blade spotless. Let's put the box aside, and now, here it is, the knife itself, packed inside a Velcro pouch that's nicely padded and soft on the inside. All right, now, for the main event, Vosteed proudly presents the PSYOP 299. This is the new midsize version in the PSYOP lineup, a model that bridges the gap between its 2 predecessors. You see, there are 3 versions in total. The original, full-size PSYOP, the mini PSYOP that came out later, and now this one, the 299, sitting perfectly in the middle. Why did they make it? Simple, because the PSYOP series has been extremely popular among collectors and EDC fans. The large one was beautiful, but a bit intimidating. It's got presence, it's a bold knife. Some people found it a little too much for daily carry or office environments. So Vosteed listened to its community and released a smaller version, the mini PSYOP, which, in my opinion, went too far in the opposite direction. It's cute, yes, but for my hands, and I'd say for most medium to large hands, it's too small. It even had a few hot spots where the handle edges could dig into your palm during use. And that's exactly why this PSYOP 299 was born. It's the Goldilocks version. Not too big, not too small, perfectly sized for EDC use and comfort in hand. Let's unfold it. There it is. Look at that, absolutely beautiful. Let me clean it up a bit with the cloth it came with so you can really see the finish. It's a drop point blade, just like the others in the PSYOP family, with that slightly rounded belly and the same familiar handle shape. Everything about it feels balanced and elegant, and right away, it gives off that everyday carry vibe, compact, practical, and good-looking. The original large PSYOP, which I also have in my collection, feels a bit more aggressive, a knife that makes a statement when you pull it out. This one, on the other hand, hits the sweet spot. It's refined, discreet, and still has that same design DNA that made the first PSYOP so successful. Now this size right here is the sweet spot. It's exactly what PSYOP fans had been asking for, a standard, balanced size. Not too big, not too small, just right for everyday carry and comfort. But what really caught my eye, aside from the familiar PSYOP design language, that classic drop-point blade and streamlined handle were the colors. The combination of green micarta with brass bolsters immediately stood out to me. It's a beautiful mix of tones and textures that feels both vintage and modern at the same time. Now, I did see a YouTuber mention that these parts were titanium, anodized in a golden hue, but after checking the official specs, I can confirm this is real brass. And brass, unlike titanium, ages. Over time, it develops what's called a patina, a thin layer that forms naturally from the oils in your hands and moisture in the air. It slowly darkens, shifting from that bright golden yellow to a deeper, earthy brown. Some collectors love that they see it as character, as a sign of a knife that's lived a little. But personally, I'm not a huge fan of that uneven, aged look. I prefer to keep my brass clean and bright. So I always keep some metal polish nearby. With a quick polish every now and then, you can bring it right back to its original color, shiny, warm, and elegant. Still, there's something special about brass. It's alive. It changes with time, and in a way, it makes every knife unique to its owner. Those little barrels you see? Yep, those are the thumb studs, and they're cut and polished by hand. They work perfectly. The whole knife is very well tuned, as you'd expect from a proper PSYOP. The detent is spot on, making the blade effortless to deploy and letting you get some seriously fast, almost supersonic, opening speed when you want it. Very satisfying to flip. Now, let's talk lock systems. This one uses a liner lock with a button element, not a simple push-button lock like some other folders, but rather a hybrid arrangement. It's a bit like the idea behind some Spyderco designs. Think paramilitary-style separations, where the liner can be nudged to release. Only here, you also have a button placed up on the scale that interacts with the liner mechanism. In short, you can release the liner by moving it to the side with your thumb as usual, but there's also a dedicated button that acts as an alternative release. It's a slightly different approach, two ways to disengage the lock, and it gives the knife a unique feel in hand. This is what Vosteed calls a top-mounted liner lock. Think of the idea you see on knives like the Spyderco paramilitary series. Instead of reaching inside the frame to push the liner out of the way, you interact with the lockup on the spine. In our case, there's a button on the top scale. When you press it, it pushes the liner aside and the blade is freed so you can close it. Now, about this brass detail here, these are called bolsters. In knife making, bolsters are metal pieces set between the blade and the handle. They add rigidity to the build, reinforce the junction between blade and scales, and help balance the knife by adding a touch of weight near the pivot. That extra mass often gives you finer control during cuts, and of course it adds a distinctive visual character. Some knives use front bolsters only. Others use bolsters front and back, leaving the center section for a grippy material like micarta in this case. Micarta, by the way, is a rugged, heat, and moisture-resistant composite. It has a slightly textured, fabric-like feel, almost like a tough, grippy plastic with sole. It's very comparable to G10-inch's durability, but with a warmer touch in the hand, which is why so many EDC fans love it. As for the pivot, adjustment is single-sided here. So when it's time to fine-tune the action or centering, you'll do your torque work from one side only, which keeps maintenance straightforward. This one uses a Torx T8 on the pivot, and the action runs on caged bearings. That means the bearings are enclosed in a protective race, sealed on both sides. One day, I'll open up one of my knives on camera so you can actually see what I'm talking about. But imagine this. If you've ever changed the bearings on a skateboard or a pair of rollerblades, it's basically the same idea, just on a much smaller, thinner scale. Now, let's talk about the pocket clip, because this is actually my first wire clip ever. In the US, they call this design a wire pocket clip, and honestly, I've always hated how they look. They just seem cheap and unfinished to me. But looks can be deceiving. These clips have quite a reputation in the knife community for being functional, reliable, and inexpensive to produce. And in this case, it's surprisingly solid. The tension is strong. You can see it has a little lift here at the end, so it slides easily over your pocket seam. The spring tension happens right here, in that little curve, and it bites hard. It really grips. Still, I've got to say, personally, not my favorite style. If someday I can swap this clip for a standard one, I definitely will. As you can see here, unfortunately this wire pocket clip is held in place by a Torx T8 screw, and yes, it's reversible. You can move it to the other side. The way it works is simple. The two wire ends slide into those small grooves you see there, and the screw sits right in the middle, clamping everything down. That means it's going to be pretty hard to find an aftermarket clip that fits, unless some custom parts maker decides to design one specifically for this knife. Aftermarket brands do that sometimes, creating special pieces for certain models. But yeah, that's just me being picky. If you like wire clips, good for you, man. That's totally fine. It's all about personal preference. Now, looking at the blade centering, you can see it's pretty much right in the middle, well, almost. Maybe leaning just a little to the right. Nothing serious though. If I press slightly with my finger here, it lines up perfectly. When I release, it drifts back a bit to the right, something that can easily be tuned or adjusted later if needed. One thing to keep in mind with this knife is that the pivot is single-sided. That's fine, but it comes with a trade-off. When you only have a screw on one side of the pivot, tightening that screw can pull the blade slightly off-center. Imagine you torque down the screw on this side, naturally, the blade will bias toward the opposite side. With a double-sided pivot, screws on both sides, it's usually easier to dial in perfect centering because you can balance the tension from both directions. Each approach has pros and cons. Single-side setups are often simpler to adjust in the moment, but they can show a slight bias if the factory setup wasn't perfectly neutral. Double-side pivots give you more fine control at the expense of a bit more complexity when tuning. In my case, this knife came with a tiny rightward lean. Not ideal, but not catastrophic either. I'm hopeful it'll settle a bit with use sometimes. These things bed in after a few carry cycles and a little maintenance, and I can fine-tune it if needed. Also, not every PSYOP will be identical. Some will come perfectly centered out of the box, and some won't. That's normal in production runs. Someone will probably write in and say, "Mine was perfect." And that's fine. This one just happened to skew a little to the right. Does that mean performance suffers? Absolutely not. The action is still excellent. In fact, the blade basically drops shut under its own weight. When you release the lock, press the button, and the blade falls right into the handle. It's practically drop shut, which also implies the detent is very light. That's thrilling for quick deployment, but it also means you need to be cautious. A very light detent with a heavy blade can lead to the blade closing with strong force if you're not careful. In short, fantastic action, but respect the kinetic energy in that fall. Now here's something you really want to be careful about your fingers. If you press the button while one of your fingers is in the path of the blade, well, you'll slice yourself. Simple as that. Some people criticize this kind of mechanism because of that risk, but honestly, with a little common sense, there's no problem at all. As long as you keep your digits out of the way, you're perfectly safe. It's just a matter of being mindful after all. We're dealing with sharp tools, not toys. Now, let's talk about the steel. This one's made from S35VN, and you can see it clearly engraved right there. It's a high-quality stainless steel known for its excellent balance between hardness, edge retention, toughness, and corrosion resistance. It's not the latest ultra-fancy steel, but it's a proven workhorse. Many respected brands have been using S35VN for years because it performs consistently and sharpens relatively easily compared to some of the newer, more brittle steels like M390 or MagnaCut. It's not cheap steel, let's be clear, but it's also not absurdly expensive. It sits right in that sweet spot between premium and practical. A reliable, well-rounded composition that'll hold its edge, resist rust, and last you practically a lifetime if you take proper care of it. Inside, you can also see the dual steel liners. Those are the metal plates running along the inside of the handle, visible just slightly through the micarta scales. They add strength and rigidity to the entire frame, keeping the knife solid even under torque or side pressure. If you look closely inside, you'll notice something interesting. See those cutouts right there? Those are the lightning holes machined into the steel liners. They're not decorative. They're there to reduce the overall weight of the knife, so it doesn't feel too handle heavy or constantly pull backward when you're holding it. That's a pretty clever move from Vosteed, actually. You can tell the knife was designed with balance in mind, even though, to be honest, its center of gravity still sits slightly toward the rear. Ideally, the balance point of a folding knife should land somewhere between the pivot and the button lock, but in this one, it tips just a bit behind that. Now, that's not a flaw, it's simply physics. The reason is the brass. Brass, as you know, is one of the heaviest materials used in knife construction. It's denser than steel and far heavier than titanium, which is famous for being lightweight. So in this case, that rearward balance is totally understandable. The designers did what they could. They milled out those holes inside the liners to compensate for the extra weight from the brass bolsters. Without those cutouts, the knife's balance point would probably shift even further back, somewhere here behind the button lock. Still, when you hold it, it feels deliberate, that kind of reassuring weight that tells you you're holding a solid, premium tool, not a featherweight toy. And before I forget, one more detail. Right here, you've got a little lanyard hole, perfect for those of you who like to carry your knives with a paracord tail. You can easily thread it through, make a nice knot, and pull the knife out of your pocket that way if that's your style. Now, moving toward the back, we find the back spacer, and this one caught my eye. At first glance, I thought it might be titanium, and honestly, I'm pretty sure it is. The color tone matches the thumb studs perfectly. They share that slightly bluish-gray anodized sheen you usually see on titanium parts. If it were brass, like the bolsters at the front, it would have that deeper golden tone, and it would also make the tail end of the knife a lot heavier. But it doesn't. It feels balanced, light, and clean. So yeah, I'd bet this backspacer is definitely titanium, not brass. And of course, the pocket clip is titanium as well. If it were brass, you'd immediately feel the extra weight. Overall, the construction feels really well thought out. The mix of materials, the colors, the textures. So, in short, this knife is super cool. It's stylish, solid, and beautifully built, one of those pieces that just makes you smile every time you flip it open. As you can see, the colors on this one are just beautiful, really striking, right? Even with that wire clip, it still looks fantastic. I just had to get it, because now I've got the full PSYOP family in my collection. The mini PSYOP, the new PSYOP 299, which is the medium-sized version, and the original full-size PSYOP, the very first one that hit the market. If you check the channel, you'll find the videos for the other two, the big brother and the little one with the denim blue micarta scales, kind of like blue jeans. And now this new version with brass bolsters and that sea green micarta, which actually looks more turquoise than green if you ask me. But I'll call it sea green sounds cooler. So my friends, that's been today's unboxing. I really hope you enjoyed it, my monsters, and I thank you so much for sticking around all the way to the end. And remember, here at Filomania, we release new videos only when we feel like it. No schedules, no deadlines, no pressure. We're free, and may we always stay that way. Take care, have an awesome week, and I'll see you in the next episode. Ciao, ciao.